Major depression is an illness that involves the body, moods, and thoughts. It can affect a person's appetite, sleep, self-esteem, and quality of life. So depression is not only mental, it's also physical. I don't know if you guys ever watched that one commercial about where does depression hurt? Everywhere. It's very physical, often symptoms of depression. And there is, I think I'm going to talk about this. We call it major depressive disorder. So there's a difference between just, I think everybody kind of has experienced days where you just feel low and maybe irritable or off. But to have a diagnosis, this has to persist. And we'll talk a little about that a little later too.
Major depression is not a sign of personal weakness or a condition that can be built or wished away, just like diabetes isn't a condition that can be built or wished away. You can tell your pancreas to produce more insulin, okay, you do it, you feel fine. If you can tell yourself to just cheer up and knock it off, you have everything to be happy about, and quit feeling depressed, you would do that. Without treatment, symptoms can last for weeks, months, or years if they progress. The key to that is getting treatment and seeking it, and there's a stigma around that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today too. Does anybody have any ideas about what depression looks like?
I don't think you look at anybody who look like it.
You're right.
Okay. We talk about, sometimes people are surprised when they go on inpatient psych, and I think people have that idea of I'm feeling the cuckoo's nest. And often it's just everyday people that you see in the world, you wouldn't know it. A lot of us cover really well and don't appear outwardly. But if you guys had to address some of the symptoms of depression, I'm sure what would you come up with?
I think it's people take an approach of blue, sadness, longing, tearful, crying. I think you just anecdotally allow loss of interest in anything. You could just be disconnecting from a lot of folks. That's just more of a depression symptoms. But some folks can have an agitated depression. They don't kind of hard up and bar everything as well.
Yeah. So it can be very different. Our next screen is, and this is also in your packet, one of the first handouts, is symptoms of major depression. And again, we talk about it's different than just feeling down for so many days. There's a persistence that lasts at least a couple weeks, and it significantly impacts your life. And again, I don't know, is that readable to you guys? But this is in your handouts. But it talks about loss of interest, loss of sex drive, restlessness, irritability. And sometimes you have people think sadness, but it can often be irritability, especially in teenagers, more so than just feeling sad or blue. Are you going to dim those light there? Oh, that's nice.
Thank you.
Does that help? Thank you. Insomnia, thoughts of death or suicide, guilt, worthlessness, low energy, fatigue, poor concentration, forgetfulness, changes in appetite and weight, and that can be increased or decreased appetite. Changes in sleep, and again, increased or decreased sleep. Sad, anxious, empty mood, blah, hopelessness, pessimism, or negative thinking. Some of the common symptoms of depression.
So in addition to major depression, the depressive symptoms is often accompanied by physical symptoms, headaches, chronic pain, digestive disorders. I had a psychiatrist once call chronic stomach aches migraines, or abdominal migraines you get in your stomach. Typical kid who gets a stomach ache that doesn't want to go to school because they're afraid of a test coming up or they've been bullied or something like that. It's real physical pain. It actually does hurt. So those are real symptoms, even though they're anxious or depressed and don't want to go to school. Stress hits you. You can feel yourself getting tense. Your muscles get tense. You don't feel good. Physically not nourishing yourself. If you're not taking care of yourself, you get dehydrated, not feel good, you don't have any energy. People get upset stomachs and diarrhea before big football games. They get nervous, or big performances. They can feel that way too. And you can get those same kind of symptoms with depression.
It is treatable. So the majority of people with depression, even if it's extremely severe, can be treated. Unfortunately, most people do not seek treatment. And why do you think that's so?
Stigma attached to it.
Definitely stigma. Any other ideas?
Some people can't afford to see it.
Cost, or big cost,
You might just think that's the way I am.
sometimes, and especially if you have a long-standing depression, they don't know any different. They just feel like this is just,
Sometimes that's the way your whole family is. Our family's just like that. Oh, we're just, no, nobody cares.
really, cramped.
We're just low key.
And one thing that we hear a lot too in our program, usually after first couple days, the new patients will talk about what a relief it is to not feel alone, that they're not the only one that feels like this. That there's other people that are going through similar things and feel like that. And it's a big load off for them, and it's one of the nice benefits of that support in that group scenario.
And I think you find that with any type of illness, whether it be cancer or lupus or diabetes, when you go to that clinic and you get a diagnosis, all of a sudden you get handouts, you get support groups, and you go online, and there are all kinds of programs. But there's the same thing for depression, that people don't seek that out as much as they do with other illnesses. Okay, so the first thing you should do is get a physical exam, because depression can mimic some physical illnesses. You should get a physical exam by a physician. Certain medications, and medical conditions can cause the same symptoms of depression, and you should rule out those things. Thyroid condition can give you depressive-like symptoms. You should have complete blood work panel done. Rule out other physical causes like mono.
Yeah, a lot of chronic things can either have symptoms that are overlap or can cause symptoms of depression. A lot of this chronic pain, fibromyalgia. Let's see. So it's definitely important to start that physical exam first. And it's one of the things our doctors do a lot too, is test thyroid and routinely test things like that that can contribute. And getting diagnosis. So after your primary care physician physical checkup, if everything's ruled out, then either that physician, primary care physician, can treat or refer you to a psychologist or psychiatrist for an evaluation. Sometimes primary care physicians do choose to treat. Often though it's necessary to see a psychiatrist depending on things like the severity and sometimes treatment resistance. So if the primary care doctor is trying to treat it but not much success, they'll often refer to a psychiatrist. So, but we do have, I've had a lot of folks that have just treated primarily with their primary care doctor for many years. But then at some point they felt it was necessary to come see a specialist.
So what causes major depression? There are a lot of different reasons that major depression occurs. It could be genetic factors, psychological factors, physical, environmental factors. They can all be contributing. It could be nothing at all. Everything is fine, and all of a sudden you just have an episode where you don't understand it, but you don't feel well. Genetic testing. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not sorry. Let's do it slowly. Great. I won't do that. There is a chemical imbalance in the brain between serotonin and dopamine sometimes, or medications to deal with that. So we're going to get into some of those factors individually.
So genetic factors, is it inherited? It can occur generation to generation in some families, but also can occur with no family history of depression. And whether it's inherited or not, it's often associated with changes in brain structure or brain function. So again, often we get people who have a strong family history of depression, anxiety, and sometimes no history at all. Again, back to the chemistry, will educate our folks on the chemistry of depression. So again, to hopefully get them to see it more as there's a physical basis. It's not necessarily like willful or poor attitude or not working hard enough. And I think that's part of that stigma too, and some misunderstandings that, and people themselves will think that way. I'm just not pushing myself hard enough. I'm lazy. Things like that aren't necessarily true. So that part that affects the brain supports use of medications, and I also think supports viewing it more as a physical illness and not a weakness.
They started to do some genetic testing for medications now too. Some of our psychiatrists use that. And when the testing comes back, it will recommend which medications work better than other medications. So I think 3 or 4 of our psychiatrists do that.
Right. And there's some, I think, controversy over how accurate those tests are and how well they can predict. And I haven't seen significant.
They usually use them, it's been our experience that they use them with people who are treatment resistant. So if they've tried 3 or 4 different medications and nothing's working, they may get the genetic test to give them a guideline to see which list of medications might work better than others.
And beyond that too, if it is familial, we often encourage people to have that discussion with their family members. Because if a family member, like a mom, responds well to a certain medicine, that it's very likely that that person will also respond well.
Psychological factors. People who are pessimists, have low self-esteem, or they're easily overwhelmed or prone to depression. Whether this represents psychological predisposition or not is uncertain. It's kind of like Eeyore. It's kind of kind of dysthymic, kind of nothing is ever good, the glass is always half empty, the grass is always greener on the other side. Those people tend to just have that kind of general disposition.
And physical factors, many medical illnesses such as stroke, heart attack, cancer can resolve in depressive episodes in some people. I don't know if any of you had an experience with this, but particularly after heart surgeries, that people can experience depression. And if you think of it as, physical and mental are so closely related, just think of when you get something like a common cold. So physically you're feeling crappy, but also mentally you feel sluggish and kind of hard to focus and concentrate. So they're very closely connected.
And with the strokes and heart attacks, they can't do what they used to do. So you feel
Just the effects of it.
There are environmental factors as well. Serious losses, difficult relationships, financial problems, anything that's stressful in life that can trigger a depressive episode, divorce, death, being laid off from a job, cutbacks at work, bills, pile up. Those are some negative things. There are some positive things too. Babies, having a baby, getting married, even though those are positive and great things. Times of stress, new people coming into your life, and those can cause upheaval and turmoil, and sometimes people just can't handle it. So it can be positive or negative that affects that.
And I think you mentioned earlier too, Kathy, that sometimes there's absolutely no triggers. And people experience depression, they'll have an onset of depression. And that can be tricky because, again, we have patients that come in and they don't have necessarily any situational stressors, and they feel guilty because I don't have a good reason to feel this way. There's other people in group that have really bad things going on in their lives, and so that it validates their impression that I shouldn't feel this way. And so it's really hard because then that just adds to their guilt and feeling worse than they already do. And then one other thing I want to mention too, past traumas also make us more prone to depression. So if you have some sort of childhood trauma or during your adult life some trauma, that can just increase the risk of depression.
Be triggered by something that eventually happens in your adulthood.
Oh, my turn to treatment. I'm sorry. So treatment includes antidepressants and psychotherapies. People with mild depression might do well with psychotherapy alone, And moderate to more severe depression more often benefit from antidepressants. We like the combination of both. And what is psychotherapy? Is that better? So psychotherapy can be individual or it can be group, as we offer, with the goals of expressing your feelings and learning new skills to manage your feelings, your stressor, like that. That's kind of wraps up the depression part. Do you guys have any questions or comments about the depression? Yes.
You mentioned like having a baby. Would you call postpartum depression the same thing, or is that a whole different category of depression?
So it's a specific type of depression, but again, the symptoms are the same. I think it's caused by a different life event, but the symptoms are the same. And there are specific, like there's support groups specifically for that, which is nice because, you know, you can go into a generalized support group or a program like ours, but sometimes it's nice to be in a program specific to that so that you can really connect with people that are going through similar symptoms, because it has its own unique postpartum where you have a lot of guilt built up because you don't have these natural bonds with your child. You're not feeling that how you expected to feel, and so it's just its own unique type of situation and stressors.
But they still treat it with medications, individual therapy and group therapy.
No, we don't have a blood test. We have a kind of degree of depression, unfortunately. You mentioned that, both of you mentioned that for mild cases, you might go to a psychologist or behavioral. You might use medication, have to go with a psychiatrist if it's moderate or severe. How do you really discern the difference between a mild or moderate or severe? You don't have a depressionometer.
Depressionometer, yeah. That'd be nice. I think it's tricky. I don't think it's always clear cut. And I really think it's just, you know, you start maybe at this end with the intervention. Some people start with medicines, but some people start in therapy, and then based on the response to that, it dictates how, you know, how your treatment might progress. So it could go either way. You could start with an antidepressant and get good results with that alone. But then I think sometimes even with that, so you start on antidepressant, you're feeling good, but if you're not making any behavioral changes, that eventually, even though you're correcting some of the chemistry, you could still benefit from some behavioral changes as well to kind of maximize your success and learn different ways to perceive things or different ways to respond to things. Did I answer your question or just talk in a circle?
And everybody is different. I know this. Everybody is different as well. Some people, they want a pill to make them feel better. Just give me a pill and let me get on my way and feel better. Other people don't want to take medicine at all. I don't have anything to do it. I'm going to talk to somebody and talk this out and get through this. So the beauty of this is you have either one of those modalities as treatment. I think the best treatment, though, is sometimes both of them together, because the medication sometimes lifts your mood enough to be able to participate in group and to participate in the one-to-one therapy, so you're able to talk. But everybody's individual. You know, we always joke at work sometimes, if you have cancer and your doctor tells you they're going to give you radiation, you don't go and say, I don't want radiation, I want chemotherapy instead. But you can do that in psychiatry. No, I really don't want medication, I want to try group therapy instead. And the psychiatrist will probably go along with that. If that's what you feel comfortable with, you might do that. Or vice versa. You want medication? Okay, we'll try the medication, it might not be working. So we tend to do that more than some other doctors do with other illnesses. Does that answer your question as well? Okay.
So there's no like set in stone pattern.
It's art.
Yeah.
It is.
True.
Yes. We're very
Sometimes the
artistic.
mystery, yeah. Okay. So our next slides are on anxiety. And again, a lot of overlap. So you'll see when we talk about symptoms, treatment, there's a lot of overlap.
Anxiety, I think everybody has felt anxiety at one minute or another. It's persistent, excessive, and unrealistic worry about everyday things. You often expect the worst even when there's no good reason for concern. Excessive worrying is often about health, family, money, or work. Worry is hard to control and occurs more days than not for at least 6 months. And unrelenting worry interferes with everyday living and can affect all areas of your life. Your social life, work, school, family. So when it's affecting your daily living and you're having a hard time functioning, that's when you need to get treatment. Everybody worries. You have a big procedure coming up, or your kid's first day of school, your kid's last day of school, something like that. And then it dissipates after, you get through it. But the people who worry about things every day, oh my gosh, how am I going to get to work today? Is it going to be a bad day? Is it going to be a good day? It's every day and encompasses your life.
And again, how does it impact your life? Yes. I thought I had something to add to that, Kathy, but that's okay. Causes of anxiety. Again, similar to depression, it can be caused by a combination of biological and environmental factors. By environmental, we mean situational. To me, environmental means like what we're breathing and eating. Although, and I don't think we mentioned this in there, but we talked about it prior, the seasonal affective disorder, that is truly an environmental cause. And I think a lot of us in this area are prone to that. As soon as we lose daylight savings time and we lose that extra hour at the end of the day, and the days tend to be gloomier and cloudy, our moods suffer. I think it's a very common phenomenon. And sometimes people that can really throw them more than just blah, but just into full-fledged depression and needing treatment. But again, so common causes, your brain chemistry again, life events, aka stressors or triggers, we refer to them as, personality, sensitivities we might have, and genetic predisposition or family history. Before we flip to the next one, if you guys had a guess about some common symptoms for anxiety, what might you come up with? So our next screen's going to cover a lot of different symptoms. Think of it, like when you worry, how do you feel? How does that present when you're anxious about something? Any thoughts?
Very nervous.
Nervousness, definitely, that's a big one. Yep. And so again, I hope you
Any
guys
of these
can
things.
read this, but we have physical symptoms that are racing heart, nausea, chills, sweating, shaking. We have, gosh, it's hard for me, lightheadedness, restlessness,
Pressure in your chest, trouble
Mhm.
breathing,
tingling,
catch your breath,
fatigue, weight loss.
shaky.
There's, a lot of different symptoms. And again, some of these can overlap with your depressive symptoms. Treatment for anxiety, again, common, just like depression, psychotherapy, medicines, and a little more specific to anxiety would be relaxation techniques and stress management. And we'll talk about some specific of these when we get further along in our talk, and we'll gear some of these towards the holidays in particular.
Any questions about anxiety?
Do you have a situation where somebody's going through it and they don't necessarily know or admit it's a friend or family member? How do you deal with it? How do you coach them into making a decision?
That's a good question, because I think people are really sensitive to it, and if they're not willing yet, even though you might be well-intended, you might be hard-pressed to get them on board with that. So I think it's really making sure that you're establishing that relationship and finding a gentle way to approach them, that may be a way that they might hear.
Start with the medical doctor. Start there and say, you might want to mention to the doctor that you feel a little nervous. Although my mother is extremely anxious. She doesn't think she is, but she is. And we try to tell her that too and go to the doctor. And my strategy is to call the doctor before she gets there and let them know, like, hey, you know what, my mom's coming in. I know she's going to tell you everything's good, but she worries about everything, thinks about everything. So I give them a little bit of heads up. And with HIPAA, the doctor will listen to you. The doctor is not going to give you information back, but they will listen to you if you have something to say. So if it's a family member and you can do that, that's good. Talk to another family member maybe that's closer to them and say, hey, people have been noticing, maybe you can talk to them and say something. And there is help out there for that.
And letting them know, if you approach them and there's different avenues. There's also, we'll talk about this later too, mental health support groups in the community, and if they're willing to go to something like that and see again that they're not alone, there's other people that are feeling similar ways, that might be a way. But again, it's a kind of a tricky thing, and
They don't want to be crazy. I'm not crazy. I just worry a little bit. I'm not crazy.
but that's a hard thing, and I feel like it's similar to, trying to talk to someone that might have problems with substances, that you'll get a lot of defensiveness and a lot of, I don't know if we talked about why people don't get treatment, if we talked about denial earlier too, but that's also a common thing. People don't want to have a problem, don't want to have an issue, they just want to be normal and okay, and will resist that. We're going to get into talking about stress.
This arrow is little. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so this is stress. We all try to juggle home, life, work, family, money, and it just, sometimes we feel like that little court jester there. I know I feel like that sometimes. Trying to keep all those balls in the air, and it doesn't work all the time. And people don't cooperate, they don't help you, and just kind of makes things a little more difficult. And this is Kim's favorite.
So those are
slide.
common areas of stress, and then we today are going to focus more on holidays. I love this little clip. I said I want to get a little tattoo. I thought it was so beautiful. So yeah, we're going to talk specifically about, with the holidays approaching, specific strategies, related to holiday stress.
Everybody's supposed to be happy around the holidays. Everybody's supposed to get a big car with a big red bow on it for their Christmas present, right? 'Cause that's what they show on TV.
And your happy, stress-free family around the table, no
Right.
conflict.
So what is stress? Stress is a condition or feeling experienced when a person perceives that demands exceed the personal social resources that the individual is able to mobilize. That's what Richard S. Lazarus says it is, and that's a pretty good definition. So you feel out of control. You feel like, I just can't control everything that's going on here. Robbing Peter to pay Paul to get this done, to do that done. You feel exhausted. You feel overwhelmed. You can't manage the demands that people are putting on you, and sometimes the demands that you're putting on yourself, that you think everything has to be perfect. The tablecloth has to be ironed, and the dishes have to be set just right, and the presents have to be wrapped, and it's not life. It's not real life.
The next slide shows, again, some symptoms of stress, and I like how I apologize again, that writing's so tiny. I like how they broke it down into different categories of body, mind, behavior, and emotions. And boy, I'll need my glasses to. So body, you have headaches, frequent infections. I'm sorry. Kath, you got your
Tight muscles,
yep,
twitches.
fatigue, breathlessness, emotions, loss of confidence, more fussy, irritable, depressed, apathy is big, just not caring, and alienation, decreased, like seclusive, pulling away from the family, friends, apprehension. Then behaviorally, you might be more accident prone. Like when you get a little bit flustered and, breaking more dishes, dropping more things. Loss of appetite, loss of sex drive, drinking more, insomnia, restlessness, smoking more. And again, you see some overlap in what we talked about earlier, particularly depression, anxiety. Mind, worrying, muddled thinking, impaired judgment, nightmares, indecisive, negative, hasty decisions, impulsive. And the next screen shows some common
Anybody
negative
relate to
ways that we might deal with our stressors. You got the excessive sleeping, some alcohol, excessive
Overeating.
snacking, screaming on the phone, pills, smoking. So a lot of the common negative things. Before we get to the next slide,
Looking for a quick
can
fix.
anybody think of some healthy ways that we manage stress? Exercise, yes.
Yes. That's a good
Exercise
news.
is said to be the #1 antidepressant. If you can push yourself to do that when you're depressed, because that's hard, yeah.
Just getting off the couch to get there.
Yeah. And we also say too, meet yourself where you're at. So if we're pushing exercise, we don't expect people to go out and train for a marathon. But if you don't even normally exercise and then you're depressed on top of it, exercise might be simply walking to the mailbox and back because you're that depressed you can get out of bed. Or it might be just, doing a lap around your house. So start where you're at. Don't, set these lofty goals and just disappoint yourself and frustrate yourself.
Taking the garbage out, doing the laundry.
Mhm. So, any other healthy ways that you guys can think of to deal with stress? Yes. Fresh air. Sun, if it's available,
In
sunshine
Pittsburgh
or,
sometimes can be difficult.
but even if it's not sunny, yes, fresh air is important. Any other ways you can think of before we give you the teacher copy? I had a neuropsychologist, I went to his conference, and he had an acronym SEEDS, and it helps people, I think of these areas where they need to target for wellness. And the the first S for socialization, so making sure that, and again, meeting yourself where you're at. So if I'm so depressed and I'm isolating, socializing for me might just be texting somebody, whatever level that you can tolerate. And the first E is exercise. The second E is education. So just in education, again, can be not necessarily a college course, but just reading something that you're interested in or playing a mind game on your phone or watching an educational TV show, reading a book. The D is diet. And again, meeting yourself where you're at. So if I know nourishment and hydration are important for my moods, but I'm so depressed that I can't get out and go grocery shopping and I'm really don't have that energy or motivation, but I might keep on hand some healthy, easy go-tos like fresh fruit what else? Nuts. Just something that's easy to, doesn't require preparation, but it's nourishing. And hydration is really huge. Just water, making sure that you're drinking enough. Because that really, when we're dehydrated, it affects our moods greatly and just our cognition and our energy. I always use the example of when you forget to water your plants, that they start wilting, and so do we. And then the last S is sleep. And then sometimes that's not in our control, that we just can't fall asleep and it's not coming to us. But even if it's not where it needs to be, just getting the rest and making sure that you're resting, but again, not oversleeping, that during the day you're taking actual breaks from the chair or whatever to get up and get some movement in your day. So that's a nice acronym to kind of hit some of the key points for wellness. So we're going to go to the next one is in your handout, healthy ways to relax and recharge. And I like that they say recharge because I always talk about thinking of things that energize you versus draining you, and it's very individual. So it looks different for everybody, what speaks to you, what works for you. So some of the ideas they came up with is time in nature, you mentioned that, getting outside, call a friend, a good friend, somebody that, again, knowing who your support people are and who brings you up and makes you feel good. Walking, and again, it can be a very brief walk and building on that. Sweating out tension with a good workout. And again, the exercise, it might not be that I'm not doing 30 minutes of aerobics necessarily, but I'm moving. Writing in a journal, taking a long bath or a hot shower. Candles, scents, aromatherapy really work for people. A warm cup of coffee or tea. Playing with a pet. There's research that says spending time with our animals, petting our animals, it really brings our blood pressure down, reduces stress. Kathy knows every time I'm on my day off, she's like, "What are you doing, Kim? You on the couch with your dog?" Like, yep. Working in your garden, how therapeutic for some people to dig in the dirt and do the weeding. A massage, a good book, music, comedy, if you know that go-to show. Mine's Everybody Loves Raymond, that you can get a good chuckle out of and laugh. So there's just some ideas, but you guys know what speaks to you, what works for you, and finding ways to fit that into your day and your routine, especially when you're getting these warning signs. Okay.
All now we're on to holiday stress. Actually, sometimes I feel exactly like that lady, right there. Cooking, cleaning, baking, that sounds familiar to anybody. Just all that preparation. Is holiday stressful for you?
How do you guys experience the
Yeah.
holidays? Piece of cake?
Just show up?
I ignore them.
Ignore, how do you mean?
I like, my holidays are like Memorial Day, Veterans Day, St. Crispin's Day, you don't know what that is, but like the major regular holidays, I mean, I take them in stride, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But personally, I don't have.
Okay,
Good.
all right.
Good.
Anybody else? Embrace them? So you really enjoy them?
I love them. Bring out all the traditions and things
Awesome.
like that. It's something
Good.
And does your wife embrace them?
that.
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for a lot of folks, though, holidays can, even though we have this expectation that it's just the most wonderful time of the year. And again, we can have these unrealistic expectations of what it should be or what I want it to be and fall short and then end up frustrated, disappointed. And then it does require a lot of us, a lot of extra for most of us. Not everybody. Some people have found ways to make it work and keep it at a pace that they're comfortable with. But for, go ahead.
And if you're feeling depressed or anxious, then that just seems to compound that. You know, everybody else looks happy, I'm not happy. Or trying to keep up with the Joneses. And like I said, the car with the big ribbon on it, that's what you think you should get as a gift for Christmas or get that for somebody. That puts a lot of pressure on
Or that Griswold house next door that has all the lights.
yeah, it's on-
Yeah, I can't get there. You said something else, Catherine. It left my mind. It'll come back to me. Okay, so for the next one, we're going to go along in your packet, the green papers that talk about stress, depression, and the holidays, tips for coping. That's, our slides are going to go through these 10 tips, and we're going to talk about those specific. So a lot of these are coping skills that you use towards anything, but we're going to specialize them for the holidays. And the first one is acknowledging your feelings, and we chose this screen with our, emojis that our technology world has found a way to express feelings with happy poop and the emoji world. A lot of times I'm not even sure if I'm sending my kids the right emoji. I'm sure I might be doing that wrong, but there's a variety. But it is important to go a little deeper than an emoji when you're under significant stress, and just finding a way to acknowledge those feelings. Sometimes just putting a name to it is a huge relief. If you could just tell yourself that, oh wow, maybe I am feeling anxious, or maybe I'm a little bit depressed, or maybe this irritability is because something else is going on, trying to look a little deeper. So, and finding somebody that you're comfortable talking to. In our packet, it talks about, again, this is what I meant to talk about earlier. So holidays, for some people, it's a reminder of who we're missing. Maybe we had a death last year, and this is the first holiday without that person. Or our kids aren't home. They're off at school or in another country or married and spending it with the other family. So it can look really different than what you had before or what you expected. And it's normal, it's okay to have sadness and grief, even though it's the most wonderful time of the year and you don't want to feel that way. And it's not only okay, it's really good to take time to cry or find a way to express your feelings. And not trying to force yourself to be happy just because it's holiday season and that's the expectation or your expectation. Sometimes, again, just recognizing those feelings helps to lessen those feelings. Okay?
It's important to reach out and ask people for help. Never be afraid to ask people. Like Kim mentioned earlier, have that core group of people that you know you can count on, that you can pick up the phone and call a friend. Sometimes if you volunteer that also makes you feel better to do things voluntarily, get wrapping place, or at a food pantry or homeless shelter, do something that also can make you feel better and not as alone.
Yeah, again, when we talk about even depression and anxiety, we can get really wrapped up in us and kind of stuck in our heads and how bad we feel. And this is something, again, we talk about with our patients, is finding ways to get outside of your head sometimes and think about other people, and ways that you might be able to give to other people can, just take your mind off yourself and lift your mood and your spirits. And then 3, being realistic. So more joy, less stress, let go of the crazy. Trying to anticipate any potential challenges you might be expecting this holiday season, and being creative and flexible with your solutions. The holidays, again, don't have to be perfect or just like last year. Families change and grow, traditions and rituals change. So you might choose a few to hold on to and be open to creating new ones. And for example, adult kids can't come to your house. Find new ways to celebrate, such as sharing pictures, FaceTiming, sharing videos. That's one of the benefits of technology, is even from a distance we can, sometimes for family dinners, I'll put one of my kids that don't live with us on the FaceTime, and we kind of take them around the table to say hi to everybody and chat a little bit. So finding new ways, being creative, thinking outside the box, and also ask other people if they have any ideas. Don't just take it on yourself, but ask for ideas from other people and from the family members that you're missing. Okay.
This is a big one. Try to set aside differences, especially now politically. That's big. Locally, the Pens and the Flyers, or the Eagles and the Steelers. You have people in different camps. That'll always come up for discussion. And you always have Uncle Joe that comes over, or Aunt Mary that comes over that's going to say something negative, or that drinks too much, or does something. Try to overlook that, or prepare in advance. In advance they're going to come over. You know what you're prepared for. This happens every single year. You're just not going to let it upset you this year. Try to, let grievances lie. And maybe you can do things, have a game, couple games to play after dinner to make things neutral for everybody, so those kind of discussions don't come up.
We have a lot of rules in our house. It's like no politics, no religion.
Right. And chances are people are feeling just as tense and stressed by the holiday as you are too, so they could be feeling the same way.
But trying to shelve those grievances and those issues and kind of put them on hold so that people can enjoy, and just recognizing everybody's humanness and trying to extend a little bit of grace. It helps. Sticking to a budget. Again, just planning before setting out to do your shopping, food and gifts. Kind of taking some time to think about how much I want to spend, how much I have allotted for this, and sticking to that budget. Don't try to buy happiness with an avalanche of gifts. And again, this came up with some nice alternatives. Instead of gift giving, you might consider donating to a charity in someone's name, making homemade gifts. A lot of times people do homemade gifts with pictures. I'm not just talking about homemades with glitter and sequins and glue and construction paper, but thinking about meaningful gifts that you might do with photos and pictures that you want to share. Gift exchanges, grab bags, things like that kind of can lessen the financial burden. So again, communicating with that family and friends and seeing what everybody's on board with and how you might do it differently.
Okay. Try to plan ahead. December 25th is coming. It's the same day every year.
Thanksgiving's next week.
That's true. That is true. Set aside time for your baking, your shopping, your family get-togethers, plan those. And it's real important to set aside some time for yourself too, to allow yourself 15, 20 minutes a day, or maybe you're doing baking for 3 or 4 days. This last day you're not going to bake, you're not going to do anything except watch Lifetime movies on TV or sports on TV all day, whatever you want. But it's important to have time for yourself too. And prepare that in case you forget anything the last minute, that you have time to go out and do that. And cleanup is always a big thing too. Usually at our dinners, whoever serves the meal and prepares the meal. The people that aren't doing it usually clean up. So.
And delegating, yeah, asking for help, asking for specific things, asking other people to bring different dishes, things like that. In the shopping, you might plan to do the shopping with somebody you enjoy hanging out with. Okay. This one, learn to say no. It's always been a big one for me. So if you're normally kind of a yes man kind of person, and then the holidays come and the to-do list mount, and even sometimes the fun activities can be overwhelming. And again, considering what it may energize me versus draining me before you accept invitations and chores and things like that. So, and I put the have-tos versus the want-tos. This is something I feel obligated that I have to do, but I don't really, my heart's not in it, versus this is something I really want to do and I'll find joy in this. I know sometimes we have to make sacrifices, but if you're always making a sacrifice, you're going to feel drained and more overwhelmed and not have a really great experience with the holidays. So I like this slide because it gives you ways to say no, which for me, it's just a stall tactic. It's like a way to step back and let me think about this before I impulsively say, oh yeah, I can do that, sure I can do. And just because you can, it might not be the best decision that you should. So ways to say no: no thanks, I have another commitment. Unfortunately, it's not a good time. Apologies, but I can't make it. Sounds great, but I can't commit. I wish I could make it work. My favorite is let me think about it. That's just a nice way to, like, I'm not sure. I got to really think about all I'm balancing and juggling right now and decide. And I might have to talk to my family members too and see what their expectations are for me and what other things we have going on. So I like that, just a way to pause and kind of step back and think, is this something I want to take on? Does anybody else in here have difficulties with saying no? Does that ever affect you when he's taken on too much? For sure, it does. We don't live in a bubble. It can, yeah. Our obligations can encroach on our loved ones too. Let me think about it, yeah, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's very true. You need to stop and pause and think.
Yeah. That has been a saving grace for me, that phrase.
Around the holidays, we don't want to abandon healthy habits. You know, usually we're exercising, riding the bike, lifting weights, doing what you're doing, and then the holidays come and you're busy, you're working, going to people's houses, you're overindulging, you're eating at the holiday Christmas party, you're eating at your friend's house, lots of good home-baked cookies and candies and everything. That's really good. But you don't want to forget about the healthy things. So maybe have a healthy snack before you go. Try to eat some fruit before you go so you're a little full if you don't eat as much. I like to limit myself to 3 cookies. That's what I do, 3 cookies. So I look around and see which 3 I want, and I like those 3. Get plenty of sleep. That's hard to do sometimes, especially if you're drinking more. You know, eating more, that's difficult to do. And incorporate some kind of regular physical activity every day, even if it's just going up and down the steps. Take the steps instead of the elevator. That goes a long way. Drink lots of water to help counteract some of that alcohol.
But again, yeah, just when you add new things to your list, some of your healthy things go by the wayside, and we feel like we don't have enough time, but it catches up to us because we're not taking the time to balance. And the next one kind of touches on it too, take a breather, AKA we call this self-care. So, and again, considering what type of activities help you recharge, kind of fuel the tank. So for some people, it might be a hot shower, a hot bath, music, reading a favorite book, prayers, walking, driving through the neighborhood to see the lights. It's again very individual to everybody, and people will say, "I don't have time," but again, so you're balancing. So I have all these added expectations around the holidays. I feel like I don't have enough time to do my half-hour exercise routine. So maybe I'm going to modify it. Maybe today it's 10 minutes. But trying to find ways to incorporate that at least to some degree. So I'm feeling stressed. I don't have time to get in the hot shower, but I'm going to put some relaxing music on while I bake this casserole for Thanksgiving. So just, again, trying to find creative ways to make time for that and incorporate it, even to a lesser degree, but that it's in there to some degree.
And you have to take care of yourself because you can't take care of anybody else. The old adage, when the oxygen mask comes down in the airplane, you put it on yourself before you help somebody else. So you have to take care of yourself. Okay. Oh, sorry, that little thing went away again. Here we go.
This is one of my
This is our
favorite
favorite slide.
parts.
Christmas group therapy. Santa Claus doesn't believe in himself. The snowman thinks he's bipolar. Rudolph thinks the other reindeer laugh and call him names. And the little elf thinks he's trapped in a dead-end job. So if despite your best
You
efforts...
might have to be in the mental health profession.
Right.
I truly appreciate that.
Exactly. That's our Christmas card. But if you feel like you're just, your best efforts, you're trying to do everything and it's just not working, seek some help. The other thing is if you're going to therapy and you go once a month or you go twice a month, don't skip it around Christmas, don't skip it around the holidays, think, oh, I got to get through this, I'll get through it. You probably really need to go for the extra support. You should keep those appointments.
And if you look in your packet at the last couple of handouts, we have a flyer on our outpatient services. This is what Kathy and I do. So it tells you a little bit about what kind of services we provide and our different programs, the partial program and our intensive outpatient programs. It gives you some details about that. And then we have a flyer on the mental health support groups that St. Clair Hospital offers. They're in the community. There's one in Bethel at Christ United Methodist Church, one in Bridgeville. They both meet twice monthly, free of charge, no registration. You just show up. And you can bring loved ones and
Friends.
anybody that
relatives.
wants any kind of education or support, all things mental health. They get great guest speakers, great topics. And if you get on their email list, they'll email you the topics that month, what's coming up. And we get a really good turnout and really good reviews on these. And then we also included crisis hotline numbers. Some are specific to Allegheny. There's one for Washington. And Resolve is one of our real popular ones that we always give out, and most places give out Resolve. They have a lot more than just crisis available. But I also like to point out the Allegheny County Peer Support Warm Line service, because it's very unique in that the people answering the phones have their own issues with depression and anxiety, but they're trained to answer the phones and offer support. So often people feel more comfortable calling this because they feel like they're talking to somebody that understands and they're like them. And they might be a little more comfortable calling.
And the Resolve Crisis Network, they will actually come out to your home
Mm-hmm.
if needed. Their goal is to keep you out of the hospital. So they'll come out, they'll send a team out to talk to you, to calm down the situation, to try to keep
But they'll also help you get to the emergency
And they'll
room if
get
need
there
be.
if you need.
Yeah. And always your local emergency response number, your local emergency room, if it's a safety issue.
And St. Clair Hospital has a designated area for mental health
Mm-hmm.
in the ER.
And not just to toot our own horn, but we have great programs, inpatient and outpatient, and we get really great reviews from our patients that come in the program. Some people, it's amazing that, they come in and they're skeptical, they're not sure, I felt like this for years, how's this gonna help me? And then they're going out and discharging like, I can't believe what a difference this made. It's just amazing for some folks. It can be life or death
Life-changing.
sometimes, yeah. So I hope that was helpful, you guys.
Questions?
Any questions or comments or?
It's just a comment.
Yeah.
Just that Resolve, they're sometimes 2 hours out or more. And I think what needs to be done is there needs to be enhancement of services, especially after hours, for people that are in crisis and people that are below normal, that won't sign themselves in, but you don't have enough to involuntarily commit and bouncing around in crisis, and you say you call Resolve, and there's not enough. There's not enough.
So
I don't know how many they have
it's a
out.
delay in the time they
Yeah,
can actually get there.
It can be a lengthy delay.
Right.
Until they can get to someone's house. And the police are thrown into, to breach that until they get there.
Right.
And I just wish around the county there were more places like where people could go and you had professionals available, especially after hours. Because generally now is, if we take them, we have to sign them, and we have to voluntarily commit them,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe get resolved out to talk to them and try, but it's inadequate,
Yeah.
it's inadequate.
So, and that's unfortunate, I haven't heard that feedback about Resolve. But the emergency rooms are always available too, 24/7, even though, once you get them there, it could be a wait.
Yeah, but once you get in there, if they're not committed, they
Right.
don't do anything.
Right.
And the loss of site facilities in this area, whether
Yes.
it's Southside Hospital,
Mm.
John, St. John's,
Mhm.
Divine Providence,
Braddock.
Mercy no longer takes site people, and it's kind of at a crisis level, I think, on certain days.
Mhm.
Just overwhelmed. And
No.
it's whether first medics or police trying to.
It can wrap up time.
calm the waters.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always work.
The one thing I would say about the emergency room, they might not be committable, it might not be to that severity, but it will be an evaluation and a referral to, like a lot of times we get referrals from our emergency room that they don't need inpatient, but they need something more intense, and they might refer them from the emergency room to us, and that speeds up the process because
What's the
they're,
follow-up time, say you get a referral?
24 hours. We call the doctor.
not that you get in the program,
Yeah, but we
but
call
a
the
phone
doctor
call.
in 24 hours.
And getting into the program from our emergency room, usually within a week, because they're heightened on our priority list, our in-house referrals, yeah.
These county resources also will resolve, like, Normal,
Mm-hmm.
Washington County, regardless of insurance, doesn't matter. We can
Correct.
have insurance or
That's
not,
correct.
Right,
or repairs or.
yeah, because they're supported by the county, I don't think there's any fees involved at all.
UPMC runs Resolve. That's who runs Resolve.
Yeah, they're out of 333 North Braddock. I think they cover the county.
They do.
And
They do.
sometimes you call them and they're busy.
Right,
I don't know how many mobile crisis teams they have out there, but sometimes it can be a couple hours away.
that's unfortunate, yeah. Yeah. But I do agree,
Mental health
there's,
services, mental health services is in such a need, there's such a need for that. I always say it's an underserved population in the general population. There are no funds for it. They don't have a good voting bloc. They're not anybody that can go lobby senators and congressmen until somebody's senator or congressman's son gets shot or has schizophrenia or something, then somebody does a little bit about it. But it's unfortunate. And they don't make money. Hospitals don't make money off of mental health patients, like they do liver transplants and other things like that. But it is a much needed service. Much needed service.
but again, I think, like Kathy started out saying, we're a hidden gem, and again, not to toot our own horn, but I think programs like ours are not well advertised. There's a lot, I called Blue Cross once to do a review for one of our patients, and it was a local Blue Cross in town, and they didn't know that we existed. I'm like, how is that possible? So just getting the word out, sometimes when people need services, there's other steps before you have to go inpatient. And not that I always say inpatient is not necessarily a negative thing. Sometimes that's the best and the most needed thing at the time, to get quick 24/7 supervision care and treatment and a speedier way to get stabilized. So it's not necessarily a negative thing, but some people perceive that it's negative. But there are those intermediate things between individual and inpatient, and that would be us, that we're available at Western Psych. Jefferson has outpatient services similar
We
to
have
ours.
day and evening programs.
Mhm.
We have a 4-day-a-week program, a 3-day-a-week program, and a 3-day-week program in the evening. So people can work and then come after work and come back.
Any other questions?
Something else?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thanks so much for being a great audience.
Yes.